got it. There we go. Good morning, everyone. It is actually quite a nice day, to be honest. Looks like it is going to be alright. There's a couple of clouds in the sky, but no, it looks like it's going to be quite a nice day today. But now the weather is also indeed turning as well as we move inevitably towards winter. I say I'll be having my wellies back on, my big coat, as we say up here, and of course my traditional hat. Catho G, good morning to you. Good morning. Oh. Lee, good morning to you. But yes, good morning to everyone. Helen, good morning to you. Like I say, a special good morning to you if you are currently down in London. Yep, Helen. Yep, good morning everyone. Like I say, a special good morning to you if you are down in London today. I couldn't really make it to today's march, unfortunately, but definitely something I want to go and do at some point and do a live stream from. I think that would be very, very fun to do. But no, I would need to sort out, I think, a portable Wi-Fi hub if I was going to go down in London, because London is, especially when you're walking around the streets, it's yeah, it's a bit iffy with the Wi-Fi signal unless you've got something in your pocket to bounce it off. I know Graham is going to be doing a live stream as well today from the march. So that will be, I think, kicking off at about 10:30, I believe, today. If not, I'm sure someone will correct in chat. If not, like I say, keep an eye on the Labour Social, etc. It will inform you when he goes live. Oh, Pretty Bird, greetings, good morning to you. There we go. But yes, please do remember to click on the like and share button as well. Like I say, we'll get more people in. And we'll start this walk off good and proper. But yes, I think we have to start off with, of course, the big controversy of the day. Michelin, good morning to you. At least you don't have to worry about your pedestrian tax. Very true. So it was, oh no, have I got... oh no, have I got... have I left... there we go. You've made me really self-conscious now, because I can't see. Yeah, pedestrian tax. 91 Leeds, hello to you. Hello to everyone else joining us today. Oh, we have to walk through the cows. Oh, I hate walking through the cows. Can we walk around them? I think, you know, we might do that. Because they're a colossal pain sometimes, these cows. But yes, as we've alluded to, the pedestrian tax. Paz News, good morning to you. And ahoy there to Cavalan, good morning to you. You're from the US, what is this pedestrian tax? Well, it's a completely made up tax that Rishi Sunak decided that he was going to cut for the pure sake of looking as if he was cutting something. It never existed. And of course, this started the hilarious meme of 7 bin Sunak. Also something that doesn't exist either. Oh, pony in the background. Of course, we've got the cows. You know what, I might go the other way today. Take you on the reverse route. Always makes me weird when the cows just stand at you and stare at you like that. Because you never know what they're going to do. Anyway, hopefully they don't move off into the tunnel, which will create problems for me later on. But, of course, Rishi Sunak's big speech, of course, is the big news. Christening himself, of course, as 7 Bin Sunak, master of the 7 bins. All of us deceived, really, because in the darkness there was 1 bin to rule them all. Oh. But this is typical Tory stuff. There's a lot of people obviously very surprised by this, and I agree with their surprise, and I think there's a lot of shock going on as well, which I understand. Oh, Mithril, good morning to you. But this is the whole point. This is Tory policy for the past 13 years. We'll announce that we're going to do something and then either completely abandon it or only partially fund it. Or in this case of the net zero U-turns, completely water them down. And as I was saying last night on the Labour Social, you've got, through these net zero policies, actually really good stuff. You know, the direction we should be going in. And yet, to appease the hard right of his party, he has decided not to do that. And I think this all goes to Uxbridge. I think this all goes to Uxbridge. Mithril, thank you very much. Have some rhubarb money. Well, it is almost rhubarb season up in Yorkshire, and we are in incredibly easy for me to so that's true. They're talking about cancelling HS2. What a complete waste. Yes, I've heard about that. Oh yes, good morning everyone as well. Reagan Elite, good morning to you. Good morning to everyone else who I might have missed. If I've missed you saying good morning, I've just not been paying attention to the chat. But good morning to you. Like I say, please do remember to click on the like and share button while you're there. And yes, HS2, what again? Good project. Good project. This is it. It is a good project that, if they did, would have a big boon and pay for itself. You know, I didn't realise there's a dog there. That shocked me a bit. I was like, where did that dog come from? But yeah, HS2, good project. They're not investing in it properly, and yet it would be a good, much needed infrastructure project, and yet they're not doing it. Again, why? Morning.
Goodbye.
So this is the usual tempo that we always see with this HS2. It has been bounced around by want to pay as little for it as they can while trying to actually reap the rewards. And in doing so, it has only cost them more and more money to be able to do it. And we've talked about HS2 before. HS2 has been sold completely wrongly, that it's all about speed. It's not about speed at all. HS2 is all about capacity. It is all about the capacity, because what you do, all the current lines with all those fast trains, they go on the HS2 line. This means you now free up more capacity for slower trains to go on those lines. So you could get more local and regional services on those current existing lines, while the HS2 line serves the long distance stuff connecting cities. That's what HS2 should be for, part of an interconnected travel network in the UK. And of course, they've gone and screwed it up. Should we expect anything less at this point? I don't think so. FT morning, guys. Lee, I'm amazed that Sheffield trams are reliable and cheap. Fares capped at £2. Yeah, this is another thing. Trams. I'm shocked that they haven't expanded more tram networks or announced more tram-like services. I know there's a big hoo-ha at the moment in Sheffield about expanding the tram network and where they're going to expand it to. It's very, very much needed. And you talk about, of course, the fare capping. That's the same that's happened on all the that's the same thing that's happened on all the public transport. Bus transport at the moment also capped at £2. I think that is really, really good that they've done. Oh, are we Barnsley triangling? Hopefully not. I've thoroughly been reading, what was it? The Christian Warmer's History of British Rail. Absolutely fascinating. It is. It's fascinating indeed. And I always say this, Gareth Dennis, we had him on the channel a year ago. Is it a year ago now? Maybe more than that. And we talked about HS2. We talked about Northern Powerhouse Rail, the massive opportunities and how good it would be to have that infrastructure projects done. And yet another reason why we need to get Labour in. Because he was talking about, I think, the person who would become the Transport Secretary, big proponent of HS2 and Northern Powerhouse Rail. Again, another reason to get them in and get that sorted out. But it is a very, very big needed, much piece of infrastructure we are missing in the UK. And it's very, very much needed. You want to go to the Sheffield trams only because Jarvis Cocker. I didn't even realise that was a thing. Nico, good morning to you. FY, good morning to you. Helen Will, should have started the HS2 in the north. Link Leeds and Manchester and other cities. Yeah, this is what a lot of other people have said. Start in the north. Of course, no one listened to that sensible part. Mithra, we tried high-speed electric-powered trains in the 80s with the APT. The advances in tech could do it properly now. You've got part of the lines that are electrified. My own hometown, the line that it's currently on, the Leeds, starts in Sheffield, goes through Barnsley and either goes onto Leeds or goes on to Huddersfield, not electrified. Something they have been talking about doing for years and never done as part of that line. Desperately needed. What happened if you saw Maximilian walking towards you now? I'd be shocked. I'd be kind of shocked. I'd be like, why aren't you in Italy? Oh. Anyone Leeds? Manchester. Isn't Manchester dead in the water now? The money they've spent, absolutely crazy. What a mess. The big problem, of course, is that Manchester is one of those big hubs for rail, always has been. And it's difficult to really say. I'm not an expert, but for years where we have needed this rail infrastructure, and yet it's just been ignored. And even more so, of course, under the Tories. Hopefully we'll get that much needed infrastructure done next Parliament, like I say. One of the many opportunities that await us in this next Parliament. Mithril Reeves won't do it. She's no interested in infrastructure. This is again where I say, look at Ed Miliband. Ed Miliband, massive booster, wants this type of stuff, wants this infrastructure. I think she's going to be a lot easier to fold into this than anything. I know they're a bit flip-floppy themselves on whether to do HS2, but the thing is with HS2, it's either you go all in it or you don't, and you just scrap it. And if you scrap it, it's a colossal waste of money. You've got to go all in on it, get it properly funded, get it properly sorted, and just get it done, you know, and get the northern leg re-established as well. Because it will bring any of these big infrastructure projects do, but the benefits to the UK will be, you know, astronomical. And we've talked before about it in the past. I think there was a piece not too long ago, about someone, and they were talking, I think it was in the Yorkshire Post, and I think it was by a businessman who was saying he'd brought someone into the UK and was like really embarrassed by like our state of the trains, because he'd been to their country and he'd seen the state of their trains, how better it was. But that's mostly because, of course, we focus our efforts on cargo transport, not passenger transport, as they do in Europe, which explains a lot, to be honest, as part of the mess that we're in. But you can have both. Europe has proved that, and they've certainly proved that if you focus on passenger transportation, seems to work a lot better. Seems to work a lot better. Yep, you are right. Not long-term benefits, the employment benefits. Yeah. And it's the same with all the net zero stuff as well. If you get all this investment into net zero, building these green, industries, building, green energy infrastructure, decarbonizing the steel industry, something I go on all the time about this channel. It's really important that we do that. Just the business benefits, the benefits this would unlock for the UK would level up the country. And yet now you've got Boris Johnson coming out today saying how shocked he is that they are abandoning their green principles. Well, you didn't really follow through on them. You were prime minister, you should have followed through on them. And then, of course, not to abandon HS2 too. I think that was this morning. He's come out with that little chestnut, and you're like, well, hold on, Boris. You were the one who cancelled the northern leg. The what was it? It splits off and would have gone up to Sheffield. Can't remember where it splits off now, but yeah, Boris cancelled that. It's honestly, words fail me sometimes Words honestly fail me. Oh. Of course, last night I've just seen a message from WhatsApp. Like I say, if you were watching the Labour Social last night, we were talking about libertarians. And for those of you who watch my channel, know that we've covered the manifestos of the UK Libertarian Party and the Scottish Libertarian Party in the past. Oh, what fun. And then, of course, I also recommended the book, A Libertarian Walks into a Bear. Very, very good, by the way. Definitely recommend. Also, yes, we are going through the Barnsley Triangle at the moment, so if we do disconnect, never fear, we will be back momentarily, as is tradition at this point. But Larry the Cat, good morning to you. Oh, sorry, should I say Sir Larry the Cat? to give your proper title correctly. But I think I've said it before and numerous times. We've had, you know, this libertarian ideology. It's not popular. It is not popular in the UK. It is not an ideology people really want. Even conservatives don't really want to go for it. It's yes, my good man, don't forget the sir. of course, my liege. It's not a popular ideology. And the fact that you've got Liz Truss trying to sell this to the Conservatives, and a couple of other Conservatives have tried throughout the years to push this. Most of Brexit was driven by this free market ideology. Of course, we're going to become Singapore on the Thames. Of course, as was, I can't remember the former Bank of England chair's name, we've become Argentina on the Thames. Thanks to Liz Truss. Probably quite true, to be honest. Can't wait for Liz Truss to come back. Need to order a lorry load of popcorn. Oh boy, she is definitely planning a comeback. She is definitely planning a comeback. You can see it, not now, but she's Labour Social, trying to, you know, get that subtle plug in. We discussed this, that the bigger defeat we deliver to the Tories at the next general election leaves them with a lot lesser pool of candidates to choose from. And that's only going to add to a civil war, which is going to tie them up for at least a decade or more, where they're not going to be an effective opposition. So it gives us so much opportunities to get a lot of stuff done during that time. Dopey lettuce come back. Probably. And I think she's going to be trying to keep her head above water. And I think that's the moment that a lot of people would like to see. We talked about, I think Graham said, him and Hansky said, well, what about if they swap out for Penny Mordaunt? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think that's going to happen at all. I think their chances of that are greatly diminished, depending on which way they go. Oh, hang on. Another runner come through. Right. Morning. Yeah. Oh. Oh. Yeah, hide the life jackets. Exactly. Because obviously you can only become leader. You can only become leader of the Tory party if you are a member in the House of Lords, not the House of Lords, House of Commons. So their options for who they want are going to be incredibly limited. And Mordaunt is one of those names that if you look at the polling in her seat, currently all the polls are saying she doesn't survive. So I don't think they would go with her on that assumption. Not only that, she is not popular with the right wing of the party. So if we did get rid of Sunak to replace her with Mordaunt, even just that replacement, there would be a huge battle between all these different factions to get their man in place, ready for the next election. I really do not think they will do it. I think they know that it's going to be Sunak until the election. And even if they do want to change, well, it's too late. And then who do you change to? Yeah, you could go with Penny Mordaunt, but the right wing of the party does not like her, does not want her. Oh, here come the geese. Hold on. Here are the Canadian geese. There's two. Yep. There you go. Making an absolute racket they are. We go. Geese leaving the sinking ship. Oh, very true. But I've said before just how a weak leader Rishi Sunak is. And even now with this green energy U-turn, it's going to be interesting to see in the coming weeks, will he U-turn back on some of those promises he made? Because there's a lot of very upset Green Tories that want all this net zero stuff, because they can see the business potential in all of it. So they're very, very much happy to go for it. But we'll see what happens. I think this is going to unleash very much a civil war in the party. I think you're going to get one of the things that we've said for a long time. Boris Johnson now, with his column, just chucking grenades over the garden wall just to see what damage he can cause. Wouldn't surprise me. Can't turn back on something he doesn't mean. Well, yeah, that's true. But we'll see how much trouble Boris causes on the outside of the party, especially when he, quote, disagrees with so much with the current rulership. But make no mistake, he'll be using this opportunity to his fullest just to cause trouble for Rishi. And he's already started. But we'll see how much trouble he can cause. Yeah, North Korea on the Thames. We're not that far gone yet. We're not that far gone yet. But it's what's the reaction going to be now? I think you're going to get a lot of Tories discussing this, behind their closed doors about how they can about what they're going to do, how they can convince Rishi to make that U-turn. Because the thing is, they've already been warned about this. They've been warned of the consequences if you abandon net zero and green energy policies. Just look what happened to the Australian Conservative Party. They got absolutely wiped out. And Adrian, yes, you make a good point. Yeah, they know they won't be in power for long, so yeah, why bother? This creates short-sighted policies. This creates really short-sighted policies. This is part of the reason why we got the Brexit referendum in the first place, because Cameron put that policy in his manifesto, expecting that Conservatives were not going to win and that he wasn't going to have to follow through on it. This is the danger. And because you are getting such short-sighted policies now coming through, with them thinking, watering down these policies, this is even more reason why you've got to get rid of them so much more quickly. So fine. So I have a question. Maybe you can answer. The UK recently failed. The UK recently failed to ban 63 pesticides. I did a video all about that. That are banned in the EU. Can this lead to an actual import ban of UK agri produce? Eventually, yes. Eventually, yes. But it will take the EU time to do something about it. It's just how the EU works. But the more we use these pesticides, and of course, I don't know if you also saw the news this week. They found another banned pesticide in the rivers. I can't remember what its name is now, but it creates really bad for river creatures, and of course very bad to bees as well. And yet farmers are using it. They found, I think, down south, roughly in like 10% of rivers. So farmers are already using this pesticide that has been banned, which they know they shouldn't be using, or if they are using it, they've got to report their use of it. But of course, we reported about this last year, where they changed the rules on this, that you no longer have to report using dangerous chemicals like this. So if there is a leak, it makes it even harder to trace it back to its source of origin. Neonic, that might be it. That might be it, Pretty Bird. That might be it. So it's we're heading for, honestly, we're heading for a crash at some point. Something bad is going to happen, and then people are going to realize, oh, why weren't these regulations in place? Why weren't these things in place? Because the Tories have weakened all these regulatory protections, all these boards that are meant to do that. They've defunded the departments where they're meant to be doing all this stuff. Number 3, good morning to you. It honestly just goes from bad to worse when you look at the potential of all this. And it gets even worse when you think that you've got things like the Edinburgh reforms, which the best way to describe the Edinburgh reforms is Rishi Sunak has essentially taken the seatbelts out of the UK economy. So it doesn't matter how safe a driver, Rishi Sunak is of the UK economy, sooner or later, he will end up in a crash, which, if you've been looking at a lot of UK economists, a lot of them have said there's a recession literally right round the corner. It's not good news. And of course, it's not just us that could cause a crash, as we saw in 2008. So if you've got no seatbelts in your economy, it just makes the crash even worse. And this has been their take on regulations for years, that we shouldn't have regulations, that they are, quote, too strong, or, you know, stopping businesses. But most businesses, if you've ever talked to them, they know they want those protections on this. Reagan Leet, you'll check out the march. Oh, yes. Hello to anyone checking out, going on the march today. Like I say, I suspect most people will be down in London already. So good morning to you if you are in London going on the march today. Like I say, good luck to you all on the march today. I know Graham said he might be trying to do a live stream of it. I think the march kicks off, I want to say 10, half 10, or it might even be later than that. I'm not 100% sure. Or that might be the meeting point initially. But yeah, like I say, if you are on the march today, have fun. Stay safe, etc. Kicks off at 12. So yeah, not for some time yet. I thought it started at 10. I don't know why it started at 10. But yes, have fun if you are down there. Like I say, Reagan Leet's posting the information you need to go join the stuff. Golden Boy, good morning to you. I expect 2024 is going to be even worse. Would not surprise me, to be honest. What's the latest on the EU retained law bill? Massively watered down. Massively watered down. As we suspected, the Lords whacked it back to the Commons because they weren't about to commit mass deregulatory stuff. This is now left essentially Kimmy Badenoch trying to look at ways how she can pass a lot lighter version of the bill. But ultimately, I think it's too little too late. I doubt they'll be getting anything through, to be honest, between now and the next election, unless they really want to ram it through quickly as possible, which they may decide to try and do. Wouldn't surprise me if they did try and do some very last minute stuff. But that's the plan, at least what seems to be the Tory plan. Because I think they know they're going to be out of power for quite some time. Which, again, as I said, will be good for us. Kimmy Badenoch couldn't get a good deal in Poundland. Yep, very true. Bakura, good morning to you. But this all comes back to regulations itself. I think the UK public needs a wake-up call, a very severe wake-up call, as to the fact that a lot of regulations we've taken for granted are at risk or have been watered down. And just a lot of people just aren't aware. Because regulations, unless you are in that industry, in that area, you don't really keep an eye on them. So you don't know about half the stuff, or some of the changes might be made, like the chemical one I mentioned a while ago, the fact that if you're using a dangerous chemical, you don't have to report the use of it anymore. You know, just... It's you know, this is the big thing that a lot of people need to pay attention to. I think we've had, who was it recently? Was it Grant Shapps, who was at a AI conference recently, saying that, oh yes, we need to regulate AI? I agree, we do need to regulate AI. There should be some form of AI regulation, but we can't just be as we've always done with this type of technology and regulate it as it is now, because it's always, especially with technology, jumped leaps ahead. And then this has left regulators and governments scrambling, trying to regulate something that is already leaps and bounds ahead. So we need to get some good regulation, especially when it comes into AI, and think about future-proofing some of these regulations. But of course, the Tories, they don't think that far ahead. They don't really care. So we'll see what happens when that comes. If, of course, they regulate AI, I very highly doubt they will, because you've got obviously people in the Tory party who are free market fundamentalists who openly say and will say that there should be no government interference in the markets. Things like this shouldn't be regulated at all. It should be left up to the markets to decide and regulate. And yes, that's proved a fantastic cocktail for disaster in the past. Exactly. How are laws going to be enforced? Who enforces them? Exactly. It opens up a whole very detailed and, to be honest, very boring and dry discussion. And this is another part of the problem. Talking about regulations are really dry, boring, technical conversations. And it's really difficult sometimes to make people realize just how important these regulations are. I think I've said before, I work in marketing. So I remember when GDPR came in. And when we knew GDPR was going to come in, everyone in my industry looked at it and thought, right, this is what we need to do. This is how we're going to do it. Make sure we're complying with rules, laws and regulations, etc. We're all done and dusted. And then we looked around and went, oh yeah, our clients aren't following all those. Well, they're not doing any of that stuff. So it came to a point where the sale, and especially the events of GDPR, were basically, right, we're going to sit our audience down and we're going to scare them. You know, if you do not follow these rules, you are going to get a massive fine. and that's how we had to sell GDPR regulation to companies, to businesses who should have been following these rules, laws, or kept on top of it, but they didn't, because they either had external marketing departments who they expected to do it for them, which they weren't paid to do for them, so they didn't do it, or they didn't have a marketing department, so they had no one in the business who was up to date on it. But yeah, I remember doing that back in the day. That was what, 2017, majorly 2018, when we really started doing that. When we started doing these scare them to death talks. Oh, fun times indeed. But yeah, even now, You know, we have to be GDPR compliant. And what we do, especially if you want to do anything in Europe, you know, you have to prove that I am GDPR compliant. I've got a whole folder to send to someone to prove that I'm GDPR compliant. But that's what you have to do if you have to be doing that type of business. And it's, as I said, sometimes it can be really difficult to sell or at least talk about regulations to people because they are really dry, boring topic discussions. And most of it is like really high technical details. And you don't see that type of discussion going on in Parliament. Now you see that going on in the EU because they talk about that stuff all the time because they are a regulatory superpower. That's what they do in the EU. But of course we haven't seen any of that type of discussion here in the UK because, well, the Conservatives do not want to regulate, they want to deregulate. For all their talk of wanting to regulate, they never really have done. Instead, we have seen massive deregulation, as we saw recently defeated in the House of Lords with the whole building plans that were going to weaken water protection rules for building by rivers. To which the Tory excuse was, which always fascinated me, of don't worry, we've looked at the current river pollution and it's about 0%. So don't worry, if we do weaken these regulations, that's not going to increase. But that just makes sense where people are already blocked from building these types of developments, have to be careful, make sure that they take water pollution in mind when they're doing these types of buildings. And now you're going to take that all away and say that that potential type of water pollution is not going to increase. Yeah. I somehow highly doubt that. Oh. Yep, regulation does give a level playing field. Make sure everyone's playing by the same rules, everyone's singing from the same hymn sheet. You know, regulations are good. And I said it before, I will sing this now, I think the UK public does not appreciate regulations. They do not understand regulations because we've never had something in quite a while where we've had to look at something and go, oh, well, actually, the reason this happened was because the regulations weren't in place, or the regulations were too low. So that's what allowed this to happen. We haven't had that, or at least something like that, in a long time. In a long, long time. So I think it's something that the British public have ignored, mostly because we've been in the EU, and it's been all done in the EU. And it's been fantastic fodder, of course, for the right wing to make up all those, you know, EU fantasy regulations, you know, that we heard Boris Johnson mostly responsible for all of them. So we've got a lot of work to do on that front. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to lie at all. But as I say, interesting times indeed, coming up ahead. And with Sunak's green policy U-turn reversal, I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens now. Next week could be interesting, because we might get a rebellion. We might get a rebellion. Possibly led by Grant Shapps or Chris Skidmore. Maybe both. Morning. because they are both very, very green Tories. So if they decide to whip everyone up, well, they might do it. But yeah, we'll see what happens. Keep an eye on those two. Definitely keep an eye on those two. Interesting times ahead for them. Yep. Oh, morning.
Morning.
So, as always, Sabine, hello, you've just made it right to the end. You've made it right to the end. So, as always, thank you very much, everyone, for joining me today. Like I say, it looks like it's actually going to be somewhat of a nice day, which is quite nice. I'm off to Sheffield later. Going to find a secret cake cafe, as it's called. But that will be quite fun. But if you are out in London today, have fun, keep safe. If you can't be safe, be sensible. Enjoy yourselves. And of course, we'll see you all next week for another Good Morning Walk.